What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Early Edge NFL Pick Show, brought to you by BetMGM, the sportsbook. Born in Vegas, Will Brinson, Larry Hartstein, Mike McClure and R.J. White here to give you picks for every single NFL game on the Week 10 slate. What a wild season it is. We have 9 teams, guys. 9 teams with 2 wins or less. That is insane. The only time that's ever happened in the Super Bowl era, 2006, when the last undefeated team in the league, the Indianapolis Colts, won the Super Bowl. So if you're hoping for that rare Chiefs title, maybe this is your year if history holds. We have 2 teams to talk about on Thursday night in the AFC that would like to challenge the Chiefs. One of them right there, the Ravens. The other, the Bengals. It's not an elimination game here, but they could use a win in the division after blowing a game to the Ravens earlier in the year. The Ravens are -6 in this game with a 52.5 point total. And Larry, you have a duo, a little like an appetizer, you get like a duo of hummus or something like that. You've got a duo of player props.
Yeah, I got a couple of props. One has gotten away from us, Joe Burrow over 1.5 touchdowns, which I posted much earlier in the week, but the price is pretty prohibitive right now. But the other one that I also love is Joe Burrow over on his pass attempts, 35.5 or 36.5. You know, we know the Ravens are one of the top pass funnel defenses in the league, and that just meshes with what the Bengals want to do. They lead the NFL in pass rate over expectation, coming off 39 and 40 the past 2 weeks for Joe Burrow. And the game script was positive, and they're still throwing that amount. The first meeting, 41-38 with 39 pass attempts from Joe Burrow. I don't think this Ravens offense can be stopped, especially with Keaton Mitchell coming back. So this is going to be catch-up mode. This is going to be Joe Burrow back to pass a whole bunch of times.
I actually just plugged into our rundown for the Thursday night pregame show ahead of the game. Keaton Mitchell, 30-1 first touchdown score. Guy's electric. He's coming back, and you're right. It only makes the offense better. And I agree with you. My pick for this game dovetails into sort of your idea here, which is Jamar Chase anytime touchdown. It's -125, so it's not like that expensive to take. And if you look at the receivers who scored on the Ravens, we've got Xavier Worthy in his debut in that Week 1 game. Devontae Adams had a monster game. Terry McLaurin scored twice. Mike Evans scored. David Njoku scored. Some other names mixed in there as well. And oh, by the way, guess who scored twice against the Ravens the last time they played? Jamar Chase. No T. Higgins. We think. I mean, he hadn't been ruled out. He just hadn't been seen at practice, right? I mean,
doubtful, yeah.
He's very unlikely to play, right? Mike Gesicki is sort of, maybe a bit of a focal point. Andre Yosivas and Jermaine Burton, if he's not in a casino playing slots, could be involved tonight as well. But Jamar Chase is the focal point of this offense. Zach Moss probably done for the regular season. This is a pass funnel. Jamar Chase is going to catch a ton of passes, and I think he gets one in the end zone. I think it's a pretty good look here to take Jamar Chase anytime touchdown at that price. Mike, you are a little less bullish on the offense, at least on one side when it comes to a big number.
Yeah, I would say it's mostly just the number here. Well, it's going to be the Ravens team total under 30.5. This is a number that's essentially reserved for college football games, not NFL games, particularly in division. And I know we've seen these two teams shoot out. We've seen Baltimore put up a ton of points. But when I look at this matchup, I think that Cincinnati is going to have success moving the football. The question comes down to whether or not they score touchdowns or have to settle for field goals. But for me, I think they're going to be able to possess the ball enough. And if you look at the Ravens side, if the Ravens have success, I think they're going to want to run the football, particularly with both running backs active in this particular spot. So for me, it's just a big, big number. I think there are so many paths to a Ravens victory and even a Ravens cover that involve them scoring 24, 27, 28, or 30 points. Just the idea that you can get there with a cash ticket in like a 30-23 kind of game that would still go over the closing total, by the way. I just think this is a great number to go under on the Ravens team total.
Yeah, I think the only team that you could realistically take an over of like 30 or more on that you're playing against would be the Carolina Panthers. Washington's team total was 30.5 in that game. I took it. It still went over somehow. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a very fair look. RJ, any leans or thoughts on this game for you?
When I'm looking at the game, I'm looking at the spread, and I like the Ravens there. I mean, they won a close game in Cincy with Higgins scoring twice on 14 targets. I don't know where that production is going to be made up. You seem to be confident in Jamar Chase, but, we've seen games where if he's your only guy that you're worried about as a receiver, I mean, he can be slowed down a little bit. So I don't know. Cincy's most recent step-up and opponent resulted in a 20-point loss to the Eagles without Higgins. And if you're doing that to the Eagles, sky's the limit on how much the Ravens can win this game by. Looking at the injury report, you talk about T. Higgins. You see also Orlando Brown and BJ Hill questionable. Those are two big guys on both sides of the ball. And if either of those guys miss or even are just limited during the game, Ravens could roll, because we know you kind of have to be at your best to beat that team as good as they are. So my look would be to the Ravens. I liked it at 5.5, which is where I got it. Even at 6, I still like it. I think the line should be a little bit higher.
Fair enough. I was going to look and see if there's some sort of, not like it would really matter, but Jamar Chase's splits against the Ravens as a whole. 7 games, 47 catches, 698 yards, 5 touchdowns. So just saying, like, the guy gets up for the Ravens game. So does Joe Burrow. It's prime time. Finding the end zone, never guaranteed, but how dare you question my stone cold lock of a pick there. Things you could question. Decided to send the Panthers and the Giants to Germany, which is what the NFL is doing this week. I get it. Like, it's a football game. It doesn't go to Germany very often, but geez Louise. I mean, you want to talk about like some real aggressive diplomacy. Sending the Panthers and the Giants overseas is something else. We don't have a lot of picks on this game. Larry simply wrote in no opinion. The Giants are -6.5 on this neutral field with a total of 40.5. Kicks off at 9:30 a.m. on the East Coast. I'll lay one out there. I think I'm going to take the over in this one. I think the Giants can kind of name their number. This is a Malik Neighbors explosion spot. Daniel Jones has played decently. And if the Panthers are not good, but Bryce Young has looked I don't know what the comparison would be, but you've been trying to get your kid to use the potty, if you will. And they stand by the bathroom, or they pee near the toilet. And you're like, all right, close enough. All right. He's getting better. We're getting pretty soon. We're going to hit the bowl. I mean, that's what it feels like, this Panthers offense and Bryce Young. So I'm going to hope that they can kind of produce something, maybe get Jonathan Brooks back. They just signed Chuba Hubbard to a big extension, which is kind of weird, but I think the Giants will score enough and keep their foot on the gas enough that the Panthers should be able to muster something like 17. So I'm looking for 24, 17 gets me there. I think that's reasonable, even in Germany. I'm sure RJ's got something on this game to tell me that it's going to be lightning and thundering and pouring snow and the track is slow. Anything to debunk my over there, RJ, aside from the Panthers?
I mean, you said the team that is 32nd out of 32 in points per game can name their score. I mean, that's fair. I think that naming their score is, like you said, 24. That's about as much as you can hope for, and you're probably creeping over at that point. No, you say, how dare we send this game to Germany? I think if we're going to send any game to Germany, wouldn't it be this game? This feels like the most German game, of the slate here. I want to fade Carolina coming off a win. They probably didn't deserve, but 6.5, I can't possibly back the Giants laying this number on neutral. I've made this argument before, and it's come back to, bite me, that Carolina shouldn't be catching, a team shouldn't be laying 6.5 against any NFL team. And then Carolina turns out to not be an NFL team. But if it gets to 7, I might just have to play Carolina. I mean, they're getting healthier on defense. So maybe that'll help curb the scoring a little bit. Like you said, Bryce Young looks better the last few games. Doesn't look great, but looks better. So that's something that they can keep up with a team that is not very good at 2-7, that is laying 6.5 points again on a neutral field. So if I'm looking anywhere in this game, it's going to be Carolina, but you might have to get to 7 to get me to take it.
And worth noting, just to throw out there, Darius Slayton unlikely to make the trip with being a concussion protocol, as Brian Dable told reporters. So Jalen Hyatt would step in. Anything for you here on this game, Mike?
No, absolutely not. Look, we're talking about Sunday morning, right? Saturday night, you've got LSU, Alabama, and the Utah and BYU game that doesn't kick off till 10:15 p.m. Eastern. I might still be asleep, and the players on the field might as well be asleep. So I'm out on this one.
Yeah, look, if you're gonna pick between staying up to watch Utah, BYU, or getting up to watch Panthers, Giants, I mean, Saturday night is the obvious choice there. Another scorcher, Patriots at the Bears. Man, the Bears, I saw Adam Schefter was on ESPN and basically said he strongly hinted Ben Johnson's not going to go to the Bears, at which point Dan Katz, Big Cat, was like, what the hell? And then I didn't realize that Schefter sent a graphic back to him. The Bears have scored like one more point at this stage of the season than they had last year. What I mean, like everybody's all optimistic and hopeful. That I think they're bottom 3 in the league in yards per play, Larry, and yet you find yourself backing Caleb Williams in a rookie on rookie showdown here.
I would lean towards the Bears here because they have been much better at home. They've been competent. DJ Moore says he walked off the field because he was hurt. So maybe there's a little bit of damage repair. Maybe they're not trying to get Matt Eberflus fired this week. It probably will come. It should come with the way he's botched the last couple of games. But I think at home they will show the effort against a Patriots team that was, kind of pushed to the max last week on the road. Now has to go back on the road. This is one of those, get right, healthy spots for the Bears offense. But against top competition, they have not looked good.
Yeah, and we're 30 here, RJ, a total of 39, not a whole lot of points expected.
No, but I would lean to the over. Like, I think you can find 38.5. So I'm just monitoring the weather to make sure that's not going to be an issue because I believe there is some wind in the forecast and potentially rain. But New England was playing like an over team before running into a good defense last week. And you can argue that that's kind of the same case here with Chicago. They had a great defense until they had a dud last week against Arizona. And some of the, when you give up a 50-plus yard rushing touchdown at the end of the first half, there's just a little bit of give up, it seems like, on the field there. Yeah. So I don't know that they're going to be as locked down as they have been in the past. Chicago deserved to give up more points the previous week too. That Washington offense with an injured Jaden Daniels kicked 3 field goals of 30 yards or shorter. I mean, they could have had 24 points in that game. And so I'm not really giving credit to the Bears for being a great defense, especially with all the injuries they have, and then the secondary is the key thing there. So we'll monitor those injuries, we'll monitor the weather, and if everything looks good, I'm playing over anything up to 40.
Mike, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, to piggyback on that, I think there's a friendly number. I know you guys know I like to look at a lot of first quarter, first half markets. I think the number on the Patriots in the first half, over 7.5 at plus 120, Ooh. I think is a good look. I think there's a path to them having, a touchdown and a field goal or touchdown and multiple field goals to get there. As everyone's mentioned, this Patriots team's been an over team trending, especially with Drake May at quarterback. He's got some wheels. He's got some mobility. This Bears team is, I think, a little vulnerable here. They were great defensively early, but I do lean towards the over, but I would take a shot on that first half over 7.5 at plus 120.
I don't have a strong take here. I just sort of have like a spidey sense feeling that maybe the Patriots just find a way to steal this one. It's like nobody's watching it. It's close. All of a sudden, Drake May's sprinting down the sideline, and like they have a field goal to win the game, and then it's just complete chaos. I mean, look, like that sounds insane, but I mean, the Panthers beat the Saints last week, right? Like, I mean, weirder things can happen, and it would be, if you talk about ratcheting up the heat on Matt Eberflus, lose to the Patriots at home, and people will be rowdy. The Bills at the Colts Sunday, 1:00 slate. The Bills are -4 on the road, Larry, with a total of 47.5 as the Joe Flacco experiment continues to hang glide closer and closer to the ground.
Yeah, I took the points here with the Colts. I took 4.5. I would still take it at 4 for sure, just because of the spot for the Bills with the Chiefs on deck, coming off a very intense division game. Keon Coleman doesn't look like he'll be out there. Amari Cooper might play, but he'll be limited. So that's a big weapon. Keon Coleman has become an important part of this offense. And I just think the Colts at home, they have been a much more competent team. We remember what they did to the Steelers when the Steelers came in. Josh Downs is a guy who's going to keep exploding with Joe Flacco. I posted a prop on him today, over 5.5 catches. That is going up fast because the first read, 35% first read target share with Joe Flacco. So he got there for us on Sunday Night Football with that 4th and 12 conversion, cashed his props on that last play. But I think he has about 10 targets on Sunday.
Yeah, Downs has been, I mean, I watch him a lot at Carolina. The dude is an underneath machine with yak ability. So is this the spot, RJ, for your Bills? Like, it's like, I picked him to win the Super Bowl. I picked him again to win the Super Bowl at midseason because I'm going to stick with my guns. But like, it does feel like there's every year maybe one of these, like, you think Buffalo's rolling and then they just sort of step in the poop. And like Larry says, right before the Kansas City game, it's kind of a little dangerous.
Yeah, a little bit of a trap game for them, obviously, in that sense. They've scored 30 points in every game, aside for that rough 3-game road trip we knew was going to be an issue early in the year. But you need receivers to score 30, and hopefully they're going to have enough receivers to get that done. Otherwise, they'll be running the ball a lot here. Indy's defense, 14th in points per drive, but 25th in yards per drive. It really feels like they've been a bit lucky not to be giving up more points, and that's kind of helped them have what I think a lot of people considered an inflated record, at least coming into last week. Buffalo's D, though, can be run on. Like, I'm not as worried about Josh Downs. That's the strength of the Bills defense, is at cornerback. And I think that they can do a good job against these receivers and Flacco. But you can run on the Bills. They had some injuries. They brought in a couple defensive linemen this week. We'll see if the Colts just lean on Taylor. That could be an issue for them, because Ryan Kelly, I think, just got put on IR, right? So he's going to miss 4 weeks. So a little bit of a chess match there about which injuries matter more up the middle. I was surprised that the over caught steam early in the week before knowing about the Bills receiver injuries. It's come down a little bit. I kind of was leaning to the Larry side with the Colts, but if this gets down to 3.5, I might jump on the Bills side. So I think this is probably the right number. And yeah, I am worried about that trap game sense with the Chiefs coming up next.
Anything for you on this, Mike?
No, I could lean to the under here. I think the side's about right. I had priced the under at 45. So I like RJ. I was a little surprised to see all the steam heading that direction. It does make sense. The Bills have been a prolific offense. They're playing in a dome in a controlled environment. All of those things here. But yeah, for me, it would be a lean on the under, and potentially, if you want a player prop, it would be Jonathan Taylor anytime touchdown. I think the Colts are going to have to rely heavily on them, and I think the Colts know they don't necessarily want to play a shootout if they're going to try and win.
For sure. The aforementioned Kansas City Chiefs, it's not a trap game for them, I don't think, because the Broncos are in the playoffs. If the season ended today, Sean Payton doing a great coaching job, even if it's smoke and mirrors a little bit with Bo Nix, and play a good team and get pounded, still in the hunt, right there in the mix. But they head to Kansas City for a very tough matchup where they are 7.5-point underdogs. Chiefs coming off that overtime win over the Buccaneers at home on Monday night. We have a total here of 41.5, RJ, which, I mean, if you're laying it with the Chiefs, you got to, I mean, like, if you trust the numbers, you got a small window to hit that here.
Yeah, you probably want to just combine that with the over if you're going to play that sense. But I like the Denver side here. I like them at 8.5, got them at 8.5, 7.5, still leaning to them, even though my ratings say the line should be higher. And why is that? The Chiefs' 4 games where they're the biggest favorites were ATS losses. They just have not run away from teams. They haven't had a reason to want to run away from teams. They're undefeated, and they're steamrolling to the number 1 seed. Denver look exposed against Baltimore, but Casey's offense seems like an easier matchup for a defense I think is really good. And I think they can keep the score low, like this total is suggesting it will. And the big thing here for me is that I love fading a team that played an overtime game on Monday night. They got to go the following week and play this game. They're big favorites. It just, are they going to have the juice to score a bunch of points here against a good defense and cover this number? I don't think so. I'm a little worried to tease it, which I know, we're going to have some teaser talk here in a second, because this just smells with the Bills next that the Chiefs are going to be overvalued until they lose a game. And I don't want to be on their side, really.
Yeah. I like, this is a weird one because I kind of like the Broncos against the spread if I were picking something on that, but I am going to take the Chiefs and put them in a teaser because, quite frankly, they just figure out how to win games. And I mean, it is mind blowing to me how the Chiefs resemble the Patriots in so many ways. Like, the Patriots win 3 of 4, dynasty talk starting, greatest quarterback of all time. I mean, Andy Reid, you rip off 1 or 2 more and you're right there, like, flirting with Belichick as maybe the greatest coach ever. And after not winning one for the first 20 years of your head coaching career, they just pile up these wins in ways that they probably shouldn't be. They don't look awesome. They're going to get to the playoffs. Patrick Mahomes and Kelsey are going to turn it on, and they're going to win another title. It's just sort of what it feels like. So Chiefs -2, or actually Chiefs -1.5 in this case. I think it's fine at 2, of course. And then I'm going to pair them with a game that we will talk about after the break, the Chargers. I just think the Chiefs just get it done against Denver, even if Denver hangs around. Bo Nix could, we saw him struggle against Baltimore. I think he could struggle against this Kansas City defense as well. Baker Mayfield, I mean, the Bucs had a great game plan with a lack of wide receivers. Well, Denver, I think, while a well-coached team, just might not be like able to keep keep pace with the Chiefs unless the defense just comes to completely play. And I don't think it's a great matchup for the Denver defense. Mike, I believe you have a teaser as well.
Yeah, I'm going to take the most popular teaser probably on the board, maybe of the entire season. It's going to be Kansas City -1.5 with the Eagles down to -1. Look, two chalk teams here. Look, it is an absolute look ahead spot for Kansas City for sure, because the most important game on their schedule is this Buffalo game. If they win the Buffalo game, they've locked up the number 1 seed in the AFC. At that point, I'm willing to say comfortably they have locked up that number 1 seed. That is what's going to be the most important thing for them. Not to mention Patrick Mahomes tweaked the ankle. I know he looked fine when he came back in, but he did tweak the ankle. Wouldn't shock me if that thing started to hurt a little bit more on Tuesday or Wednesday after the fact. So for me personally, I think it's an extremely conservative game plan. I think they try and get in, get out with a win, stay healthy. The props are not up yet. My best advice there in props, I love Carson Steele this week. This is going to be the week that Kareem Hunt gets a week off. Kareem Hunt is going to see limited touches in this football game within reason. They're still going to try and win it, but this is going to be a week where Carson Steele touches the ball more because they have to have Kareem Hunt fresh, healthy, ready to go for that Buffalo defense that surrenders a ton on the ground. So I think it's an obvious look ahead. Having said all that, it's beautiful that it's at home. It's also beautiful that Denver's been good enough that this number can't hang at 9. Every sportsbook would love to hang this number at 9 to avoid the teaser liability, but Denver's been too good. You're getting too much Denver action at that point. So I think they're more vulnerable here. I'll play them in a teaser -1.5.
Yeah, and as you point out with the Kareem Hunt thing, I mean, the dude was signed like off the street. And he's had 14 carries his first game, 27, 22, 21, and 27. I mean, he can be a workhorse, but he's old. I mean, the more you give it to him, you know, the less.
He's got a full season worth of. He's got a full, like a normal running back on an NFL team. Even though he picked up in the middle of the year, they've got about the same number of carries.
Yeah, and I mean, like that. I mean, this is a team that's playing. Like at this point, they are playing for the playoffs. They want that 1 seed. They want the playoffs. Any thoughts here for you, Larry?
No, this is a pass. I think all the guys said it best.
All right, good deal. Let's take a break, and when we come back, Kirk Cousins, and my second favorite type of game, it's a dead cat bounce game for the Saints. We'll tell you about it next.
Saturdays at 3:30, it's big time. Will the Hoosiers keep their undefeated season and playoff hopes alive when they host defending champs Michigan? Saturday on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
Dennis Allen was fired this week, and wouldn't you know it, the Saints have their old friends, the Atlanta Falcons, coming to town as 3.5-point favorites to the Saints dogs by 3.5 at home. Kind of a surprisingly big total here, though, RJ, just looking at it, because 46.5 is a lot. Especially Drake London, very much up in the air on if he's going to play. Chris Olave, he's seeing concussion specialist right now, so it feels like he's kind of trending like he might not play. Falcons defense, okay. Saints, very bad. But you buying the home team, and I love a dead cat bounce spot. It's just the best. I mean, it's just like everybody's like on notice when you fire your head coach. You've got 2 wins. Like the Saints are probably going to win 3 games the rest of the year, but this might be one of them.
Yeah, I love the Saints here. 3, it was 3, and now it's up to 3.5 after the coach firing, but it opened 3, I believe. That's too many points. This was a look ahead, I believe, of Pick'em, right? And sure, New Orleans loses to Carolina, but I mean, they dominated Carolina in that game statistically. It was just, kind of an unlucky loss for them. I'm not really, and they didn't play most of the game without Olave, right? He got hurt early. So I'm not really dinging them for that injury. I think that this is way too much of an overreaction. Atlanta's been on a roll since kicking a last-second 58-yard field goal to beat New Orleans at home in Week 4. They were -2.5 in that game. So you flip the home field. This line is saying these teams are way, way different than they were in that game. So back in Week 4, and I don't think that's really the case. I know New Orleans been riddled with injuries since, but Carr should play better in his second game back, even with no Olave or Shaheed. And he does have Taysom Hill to help give him a boost there. And the weakness of the Saints has been the offensive line, right? With the injuries and the issues at tackle. Atlanta does not have the pass rush to take advantage of that weakness. They have they're averaging a sack a game. They're kind of toothless in their pass rush. So I just think New Orleans was unlucky last week. And when you talk about that dead cat bounce, you talk about coaches that sometimes it's a surprise like Saleh, and you wonder how they're going to respond. This guy seemed like one of the lower tier coaches in the league. If anybody should get a positive regression, if any team should get a positive regression for firing their coach, it's a team in a situation like that. So I love the Saints here. 4 at some spots. I love getting it at 4. Anything above 3, I think is great.
Yeah, I own the Saints as well. Look, I think there's a situation going on with Keandre Miller. Have you seen this? Where it's insane. Like, he's on injured reserve, but he's basically said he's completely healthy and ready to go. But Dennis Allen put him on injured reserve, according to like a report from somebody. It was a legit report, but the report was like Dennis Allen just hates this guy, and he's been thrashing him since preseason. And he's just like, no, you're going back on injured reserve, even though he's completely healthy. And it's I think it was like all gas, no brakes when he gets back. Which, like, I don't know, man. Maybe play one game before we start talking about that. Nevertheless, I just think this Saints team believed they were going nowhere. There's going to be more, like, and this is one of those spots too where you see Mickey Loomis's statement about Dennis Allen's firing, and he's like, Dennis Allen did a lot for this organization. We still love him. It's basically like straight in the face of Gail Benson and what she decided to do with Dennis Allen. I think there's the understanding in the organization that there could be a lot more changes. And so everybody's playing, you're playing for your job all of a sudden. Like, that changes a lot. And so I think the Saints come out and keep it within a field goal. Kamara, big game here. Derek Carr, you know Derek Carr, he's gonna cry about DA and blah 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 after like they win this game. It's his mascara running down his cheeks and all that. But I do think that he comes out inspired and plays a good game for the guy that helped coach him to like 2 wins. Your thoughts, Larry?
Yeah, the dead cat bounce with the fired coach has hit against the spread about 60% over the last 20 years. It hit twice last year with Frank Reich and Josh McDaniels. And this year, I think it should have hit with Robert Saleh, but Greg Zuerlein can't make a field goal, misses 2 field goals under 50 yards. So the Jets did play inspired, and this is going to be an inspired effort from who's ever left on the Saints, because Darren Rizzi is super popular. I don't know if you've read about how he rearranged the locker room. He got the position groups back together. The pace of the first practice, Derek Carr said it was the fastest paced practice. They got more done. They made shirts for this guy last year. He is beloved in that locker room. So I have no doubt that they are going to come out and play hard. And I love the fact that he threw Dennis Allen under the bus and said, what are we doing? Punting it on 4th and 1 at midfield against the Carolina Panthers. And I think the players appreciate that he's going to be more aggressive. And Derek Carr will not be super pressured by this Atlanta pass rush. No. And Atlanta having a great season, but in terms of the luck factor, they are way, way up there in terms of how the bounces have gone their way and turnovers and fumbles. So yeah, Saints plus the points, Saints on the money line.
Mike, anything for you here?
It'd be Saints or nothing for me. I like Alvin Kamara in a big way again, but yeah, Saints or nothing.
Yeah, Kamara will be chalky as all get out in DFS, and frankly, he probably should be. Probably a pretty good play. 49ers at the Bucs. 49ers a 6-point road favorite against Baker Mayfield and the rapidly depleting receiving core that he's got there. I don't think that Mike Evans is really in play for this week unless I've seen something different. I mean, he's obviously, Godwin's out for the year, obviously, but Evans is going to be a little bit. Total still, though, it's up there, 50.5, Larry. You like a side or a total here?
I like a side, and I like the 49ers. I also like the 49ers team total going over 28.5 or 29.5. Yeah. The Bucs have given up 27 or more in 5 straight. That includes a game against Spencer Rattler. Their defense is just pathetic. Couldn't get off the field. 83 plays in an overtime game the defense played on Monday night. So they are going to be completely gassed. And you have a 49ers team with CMC hopefully back, Jawan Jennings back, Deebo Samuel much healthier. And, everyone's been talking about it, but they came out of the bye last year, played a good Jacksonville team at the time, and destroyed them 34-3 in Florida. To me, this is not going to be like that, but I'm thinking 34-17.
Yeah, look, it wouldn't surprise me, RJ. I didn't feel like being accused of copying your paper, so I didn't roll out 49ers team total over here. But the second I saw it on there, I was like, "Yep, that would be fantastic." I think the 49ers get right against this Tampa defense, and pretty good chance too that Tampa, how do you got to be deflated if you're Tampa Bay and Todd Bowles does it? He kicks the extra point and then lose immediately in overtime.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough spot for them. I mean, it feels just on ratings like Tampa should be the value side, but I'm not playing them coming off overtime on a Monday against a team coming off a much-needed bye in San Francisco. The offense in Tampa is doing what it can after the receiver injuries. Not sure how much fight's going to be left after 3 straight losses. They have the bye next. It feels like just get to the bye and we'll figure it out after that. San Francisco 8th in points per drive this year, despite being 28th in red zone success rate, kicking a lot of field goals up close. And it feels like getting Christian McCaffrey back is something that's going to help that situation out, a big deal, fix it immediately. And getting Jennings back would help boost the receiver core. I agree it's a lot of points. You can get over 27.5 at minus 125 at BetMGM. So that's what I'm locking in as the best bet here.
Yeah, I think the McCaffrey thing is really interesting, Mike, because when he was traded in 2022, we saw him immediately sort of jump in, with his first game with San Francisco was against the Chiefs. He didn't get like a crazy workload, but he got 8 carries, and I think was involved. Did he throw a touchdown in that game? I feel like he did. He threw a touchdown early on, and like one of the first couple of games of his run with San Francisco. But the point being is like, his anytime touchdowns priced at minus 210, which is outrageous. Jordan Mason at minus 115, kind of interesting if McCaffrey gets him down to the goal line. Who gets the carries? Any leans or thoughts on the McCaffrey situation for you?
Yeah, I lean on him not getting the goal line carries personally. I don't think that they're going to put him through that in this particular spot. And it's mostly because they've got a brutal schedule coming up, and they are no lock to make the playoffs at this point. They're an underdog to win their division. And the reason for that, the Cardinals, who are not any good, have an opportunity to beat the Jets here and put themselves in a good spot. But the upcoming schedule here, they're coming off the bye, obviously, so no more bye. They got this road game against the Bucs. They played the Seattle Seahawks in division. Then they go on the road to Lambeau, on the road to the Buffalo Bills. Just a brutal schedule coming up. They still have to play the Lions and Rams again later. I think they preserve him as much as possible. So I think he goes out there, he goes through the motions, but I would be stunned if he was the goal line back.
Yep. I'm with you there completely. So I guess my point was like, since there's been no like word, and we might not get anything about McCaffrey and what he's going to do, that Jordan Mason anytime touchdown blind, I mean, it hadn't been that low, since the start of the season at minus 115. So I don't hate that at all. Steelers at the Commanders. The Commanders -3 in this one. I mean, not surprising because they're 7-2, but with a total of 45 here, Mike. You like the road dog.
I like the road dog. I made the game closer to a pick 'em. Look, I think that the Commanders are awesome. I think they're going to make the playoffs. I like them. I think this is a tough matchup. So with the Commanders and who they have played and beaten, recently you can only play the teams that line up in front of you, right? And I'm never going to knock someone too hard for winning football games, but they've beaten the Giants twice, the Panthers. They need a miracle at home to beat the Bears, who have looked awful offensively. And they beat Deshaun Watson and the Browns. And now they get the Steelers, who I think are a great team defensively. And I'm not so sure that Jaden Daniels is 100% in terms of his mobility, which I think could be a problem here. I think the Steelers are just good enough offensively that this game is going to be one that is certainly a one-possession game. And considering the numbers at 3, I think it should be 1. So I'll take the Steelers here +3.
Yeah, I just realized you got the Commanders and the Steelers in the backdrop there as the secondary option. I like that. Larry, Mike's sitting on that Steelers helmet. You're sitting on the Commanders helmet. Cue the music.
Yeah, I laid the 2.5, but I wouldn't lay 3. I wouldn't lay a full 3 with the Commanders. You can take apart the Commanders schedule, but you can also take apart the Steelers schedule and who have they shut down. When you look at defensively, they played Kirk Cousins in his first game back. They played Justin Herbert for a half, and then he lost his tackles. They played a lot of bad offenses, and what you saw Anthony Richardson drive up and down the field, 2 touchdowns. I think that's the edge in terms of their pass rush. It's not going to be as effective with Jaden Daniels able to elude it, able to extend plays, able to get it downfield. So it's going to be a great game, going to be a classic game, I think, but I did lay the points with Washington.
RJ, thoughts on a side total, lean, player props?
Love it when you force me to pick between Mike and Larry. It's a tough one there. If I'm
Which
leaning,
one of your children do you like better, RJ?
Well, it's a little bit of a cop out because Larry's like, I wouldn't play it at 3. Well, 3 is the line we got, and if line for this for BetMGM, and if it's at 3, I lean toward Pittsburgh. Well, Lattimore's a big addition to the Washington defense. We'll see how much he's able to play in his debut. Pittsburgh's offense was rolling before the bye since switching to Wilson at quarterback, rolling up 400 plus yards in both games. Washington's offense hasn't had to face much pass rush talent over the first half of the year. Interested to see if the O-line can hold up in this matchup with a team we know has a lot of great pass rushers. I think the line, I'm not going to go as far as to say it should be 1. I think it probably should be 2.5. So if that's the line, I'm going to stay away. But at 3, would think about taking the underdog with the Steelers.
All right. Vikings -7 at the Jaguars. The story here sounds like Trevor Lawrence might be done for the season. He's very, I think the phrasing, I think it was Ian Rappaport of NFL Media said he's unlikely to play on Sunday. He wasn't out there with the quarterbacks at practice on Thursday afternoon, and he's dealing with like some kind of upper body injury. I think it's being classified as, which is is it just a right shoulder? It's like a throwing shoulder. I mean, like you just gave the dude a couple $100 million. And he's got a shoulder injury, and your team stinks, and you probably have already decided that barring an insane turnaround, you're going to fire your coach. So I don't know. I'd probably tell the coaching staff to sit him too, because you don't want the whole. I'll never forget 2019. Ron Rivera knew he was going to get fired unless the Panthers made a run, so he gave Christian McCaffrey like 500 touches. McCaffrey is signed this huge deal and gets hurt, and quarterback obviously far more important. So for me, this game is, I mean, I think it's hard to handicap because you have a Jaguars team that might feel like they're packing it in. You know, you have a Vikings team that probably getting a little bit desperate here after skidding some following the hot start. And, you know, you just don't know how the team's going to react to no Trevor Lawrence. So RJ, I don't know if you have like a take on the, like, where do you see this line going? It was 5.5. So it only really moved 1.5 points off the Lawrence news.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it was mostly 4, maybe 4.5 in the market, and now it's up to 7. Is Trevor Lawrence, the downgrade from Trevor Lawrence to Mac Jones, worth more than 3 points? I kind of think it is. Like Mike's shaking his head now. He's saying no. He must be a bigger fan of Mac Jones than I am. So I thought this line would go a little bit higher.
He's a CJ Beathard man. I
thought the line would go higher. Maybe it does go higher. So if you do like the Jaguars, wait, because if anything, once he does get ruled out, I think people will push this up. If you like the Vikings, take them now at 7. But this Jaguars team, they also traded the left tackle recently. Minnesota's pass rush could eat up. Mac
to Minnesota, by the way. Cam Robinson revenge game.
So Minnesota's defense has had 3 bad games this season, and it's against healthy Green Bay, Detroit, and Rams offenses. I mean, Jacksonville's offense, even if you put Trevor Lawrence in, they're not anywhere near that class. So I think Minnesota was the side at 4, 4.5. I think they're probably the side at 7. It was his left shoulder, by the way. It's not his throwing shoulder that's hurt.
Oh, sorry.
So maybe that'll help the timetable if it's not his throwing shoulder. So we'll see. If I play it, it'll be Minnesota at -7, but still thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, Jacksonville has versus the Vikings at Detroit. They're bye, the Texans at home, and then man, they really have 5 winnable games: Titans, Jets, Raiders, Titans again, and Colts down the stretch. But it might not matter, Mike. And what do you think the line should be with no Trevor Lawrence?
With no Trevor Lawrence, I could put it at 6. Definitely not a full 7. Definitely not the 7.5 that I think you might get on game day. When I looked at where I had Trevor Lawrence to begin with, I had him a 0.5 point below the NFL average at quarterback. Wow. So I don't think that there's going to be a significant difference. Now, I know that this was where the true open, which was 3.5, and then sat largely at 4. I don't think that it should be 3.5 to 4 points, which is what I think it'll ultimately close at as the difference from Mac Jones, considering the weapons, because the weapons are still there offensively. And I think that Trevor Lawrence was playing injured, obviously. So for me, it's just a big number, one that I think that they can get in. And then the Vikings, I know it's a little different team this year with Sam Darnold, but also a team that I generally look to fade when playing outdoors because their baseline in that division, also, they play just so many indoor dome games. I think that this is an interesting spot. If it does get to 7.5, I will play the Jags on game day, but I'm going to wait till game day. I think there's basically no reason to lock it in at this point.
One of those where I'm checking my picks pool because the CBS picks pool locks at whatever the early number is. So it's 4.5. I mean, you would take the Vikings at 4.5, right? Everybody would, right?
For sure.
Yeah, no brainer. Just confirming. Okay. Larry, any thoughts on Lawrence, Jags, Vikings?
Nothing to add to these guys, but one of the last times the Jaguars won a game was with CJ Beathard.
Touche. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, Jim Harbaugh's got the Chargers rolling as Jim Harbaugh just gets teams going. That's what he does. Can he keep it up? We will tell you after the break.
It's going down, you can feel it in the crowd, type of thing you want to be around. Yeah. Me and my crew come through, y'all better get.
And the ball is caught! It's
is how we do where I come from. Yeah, it's going down. You can feel it in the crowd. Type of thing you want to be around.
Jumping up in the air to the 30 with some nifty moves.
Speakers got a little too loud. You know the sound. Got enough to go around. We about to get it, no doubt.
We'll get to that game next, but it's insane to see a commercial. And those watching on YouTube see the commercial. But like Cowboys Eagles on CBS, it's like it boggles the mind, but such is the new broadcasting rules. And first, though, Titans at the Chargers. Chargers are minus 7.5 here with a total of 39. As I said before the break, Jim Harbaugh just look, he has the Chargers. He's just doing what Jim Harbaugh does. I mean, I've got the Chargers in a teaser here with the Chiefs. Get the Chargers down to 1.5. They have won 3 out of 4 games since the bye. Save that Monday night close loss to the Cardinals. Now they haven't stomped on great teams or anything, but they they're two really tough matchups before the bye. Pittsburgh and then Kansas City they lost. I think it's just a case of Jim Harbaugh elevating literally everything on the roster and doing the little things that he knows how to do to make everyone better. What's really interesting to me about the Chargers offense, though, and credit to Adam Levitan of Establish a Run, who I saw tweet this out, the Chargers are second in the NFL in pass rate over expectation over the last 4 weeks. They are sort of, and you saw Harbaugh do this with Alex Smith. You saw him do it with Colin Kaepernick. He did it a little bit less, I feel like, with Michigan, just because in college you could just overwhelm people with your physicality. But as the season wore on with Smith and Kaepernick, the playbook started, and Greg Roman is the OC, the playbook started opening up and they started throwing it more. And I think it's just the way he likes to do it is sort of first year, you want to bring the guy along slowly and make sure you're all on the same page. He's got Justin Herbert playing some really good football the last few weeks. Titans, whether it's Will Levis or Mason Rudolph, I don't really care. The Chargers will run all over them. And we got Gus Edwards trending towards, he says he might be 100%. So like he's possibly coming back. J.K. Dobbins playing well. Kamani Vidal could get mixed in there a little bit. I think the Chargers just take care of business. I don't know that they're going to easily cover 7.5. Can see the Titans come through the back door, but for me, this is an easy teaser spot. Larry, do you like the Chargers just outright, right? Or
I laid it with the Chargers. They give up the fewest points in the NFL. And what you talked about with Justin Herbert is totally different quarterback since the bye. And Harbaugh is so smart because he realizes that and he changed the game plan and he's averaged 10 yards per attempt, 9 yards per attempt, and 9 yards per attempt the last 3 games. So they are, they are playing to the offense's strengths, and the Titans defense, which was really, really stout, starting to show some cracks. Is Snead going to play? I think they could really use him in this matchup, but they've been giving up 5.5 yards per play over the last 3 weeks, which is a lot worse than they were early in the season. They were leading the league in terms of yards per play allowed. But I think they're showing some cracks, and I don't care which quarterback it is, 23-10, 23-13, something like that.
Yeah, RJ, I would say Levis is the quarterback more likely to help I think the Chargers probably cover anyway, but Levis is the guy to help if you got Levis out there, you could cover any number with what he's willing to do.
You would think so. I don't think it really matters. The Chargers defense hasn't had a bad game all year. They're first in points per drive. The only time they've allowed more than 350 yards was in a 26-8 win. So it's not like that's a bad game. And Tennessee's offense only one game with more than 20 points. They're 31st in points per drive. Seems like an offense that the Chargers shouldn't have that much issue shutting down, even though Nick Westbrook-Akini is probably going to get his touchdown. I think he has 4 games in a row with a touchdown. So go ahead and bet that one to hit. But that'll be their only score in this game. As you said, as Larry said, Chargers pass offense has ramped up over the last few weeks. Makes them less one-dimensional, more like offenses that are able to score 24 to 30 points against Tennessee that we've seen, those tougher ones. So I think it's going to be a runaway. The only reason I didn't play it at 7.5 on SportsLine because I've been waiting for a 7, but we just saw one come into the market. So just lock that pick in at SportsLine at 7 because love the Chargers here. I think the line should be a couple points higher.
Mike, any thoughts here?
Just a must-win game for the Chargers. This team finds himself here sitting 5-3 in one of the wild card spots. You're not going to win the division. You're not chasing down Kansas City, but this is a must-win game for them. And I think they ultimately take care of business and get it done. Only thing else I'll leave you with, DFS. Justin Herbert is the 21st most expensive quarterback on the main slate on Sunday. Yeah, he's priced identical to Cooper Rush for the Cowboys. So considering the pass rate over expectation you talked about, I think this is a fantastic spot to play Justin Herbert in DFS.
BRB going to scribble play Justin Herbert in crayon on my wall, so I just cannot forget it.
I'm going to get that lineup in right after this, and then I'm going to ultimately change it at Sunday at 12:30 and kick myself afterwards.
There's nothing like tinkering. You know what? Don't get me started. Anyway, as I mentioned, Eagles at the Cowboys on CBS. Tony Romo, the rare Tony Romo gets to call the Cowboys game. I assume this is the Nansen, Romo, and Tracy Wilson game if we're doing the promo and it's at 4:00 or 4:25 Eastern. Incredible matchup. Oh, wait, that's right. The Cowboys suck, and Cooper Rush is playing, and CeeDee Lamb is banged up, and everybody wants to fire everybody in Dallas, and Jerry Jones is trading a 4th-round pick for Jonathan Mingo, which is maybe the worst trade I've seen in the last 3 years. I mean, well, I'm trying to figure out whatever the Deshaun Watson timeline is, or Bryce Young timeline, I guess, too. But what the hell, man? John, your quarterback's going on IR, and you're trading a 4th-round pick for Jonathan Mingo, who, the eye test, the stats, the advanced analytics, it all says no, very bad, even though you got 2 years of control. What a decision that is. Mike, I love what you've got here. You have the Chiefs in the teaser we mentioned earlier, and you're pairing them with the Eagles.
Yeah, I don't think anyone else has thought of this teaser yet this week, to be honest with you. So thank you for crediting me for coming up with this one. Look, I like the Eagles to simply win the game. I liked it at 7. I'll play it at 7.5, -1.5. It wouldn't shock me if the Cowboys mess around and find a way to cover with Cooper Rush. But man, I think that this is an interesting spot for the Eagles, though. Just like Kansas City, they have a massive game on deck. Their biggest game of their season is on deck, and that is the Washington Commanders on a short week. It's Thursday Night Football next week, so just keep that in mind here. They may not put a lot on film. They may just kind of play with their food a little bit after they've gotten the lead. We've seen them do that anyway when the games don't, when they do matter. So for me, I think it's Eagles just escape with the win and move on, and they may not cover the full number, but love them in the teaser with Kansas City.
Yeah, I mean, Larry, hard not to agree, right?
I lean with the Eagles, but the news of Devontae Smith missing practice for a 2nd straight day with the hamstring, and then we know A.J. Brown is practicing but is not 100%, so that gives me a little bit of pause with the Eagles, as well as Cooper Rush, 5-1 against the number when he comes in. This is, as RJ points out readily, this is not the same supporting cast that he had the last couple times he came in, and he was surrounded by a great O-line and a really good defense. But yeah, so I'm less high on the Eagles now with the injury news.
Yeah, I should note, I didn't put it in the document because I'm an idiot, but in my column on CBSSports.com, I had as one of my best bets, Jalen Hurts anytime touchdown. It's even money. He's got 6 touchdowns in his last rushing touchdowns in his last 3 games. And he's got 44 carries in his last 4 games. To Mike's point, I do think the one concern you would have there, because Saquon Barkley's anytime touchdown is -210. The one concern is it's a blowout. There's no reason to risk it, but they've shown they're just willing to do the tush push, and it's been successful. I think if they get down near the goal line, they're still going to run their offense, especially early. And I like Jalen Hurts to score. Anything for you here, RJ?
Despite what it sounds like with the Mac Jones conversation, I'm usually a sucker for backup quarterbacks. This feels like too many points in a divisional road matchup with Michael Parsons expected back. That really changes the Dallas defense and gives it, more teeth. And then you consider on the other side, the Eagles dealing with injuries, not just to those receivers, but all up and down the offensive line as well. I think 3 offensive linemen are in question for this game with Becton, the fill-in left tackle Johnson, and then Cam Jurgens dealing with an injury at center. And that's a lot of guys to deal with this Cowboys defensive front. And it's a big number to cover in a divisional road game. And like Mike alluded to, Sirianni has a track record of making questionable decisions that turn would-be blowouts into close games. It's happened multiple times this year. And so it's really hard for me to trust the Eagles to cover a big number against any team with a pulse. And maybe that's not the Cowboys if CeeDee Lamb can't play and Cooper Rush is out there at quarterback. But at 7.5, I'm only looking to the Cowboys. Or if you're just not confident in that offense at all, I would look at the Eagles team total under 24.5 and kind of fit that mold of play a little conservative, huge game Thursday, like Mike is talking about, and just avoid that situation where you need the Eagles to score more than 24 to win your spread pick.
Yeah, you're also in this spot where it's like maybe the Cowboys play a little bit looser because everybody's given up. Cooper Rush is in there. Mike McCarthy it's kind of a kitchen sink game for the Cowboys here, even though you lost your quarterback. Speaking of kitchen sink games, the Jets are headed to Arizona for their 5th or 6th straight kitchen sink game, must-win game. They've only won one of them, 1-5 in those. They win. Their October is insane if you look at it. They went to London, lose to the Vikings, fire their coach, play the Bills on Monday night, lose, trade for Amari Cooper, lose to the Steelers on Sunday night, then go in an absolute cannot lose this game, lose to the Patriots on the road, 22-25, and then, of course, on Halloween, these freaks of nature go out and beat the Texans at home on Thursday Night Football, naturally. But they've got a week here, to mini bye to get ready for this game. However, RJ, you seem intent on fading Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear these guys talk me out of why this line is moving toward the Jets when the Jets, all you described how bad they've been, and then they go out and beat the Texans. They have less than 300 yards of offense in that game, don't look great. And oh, by the way, the Texans had nobody to throw to. They had 3 guys catch passes in that game. One of them was Robert Woods. It was just a mess on the Texans side. So congratulations winning that game, Jets. Couldn't do it against the Patriots, but you somehow managed to beat that team. Arizona playing well, 4-1 straight up in their last 5, despite being dogs in all but one game. Defense coming off a big day against Chicago. They added pass rush help and Baron Browning. We'll see if that makes a factor in this game. It could, with the way these Jets tackles have played at times. The move signals to the team, though, overall that they're going for it. This isn't just we had a nice first half and that's something to hang our hats on. We'll go for a playoff spot next year. They're going for a playoff spot now. And this is a team that's going to try to win. Arizona has the run game and the tight end, I think, to attack the Jets defense outside of the cornerbacks, where you see some teams having trouble having to throw at those cornerbacks. I like them. Now that they're up to +1.5, I'm taking them as a best bet. I just don't think that they should be laying points in this game.
Also, just randomly, can I ask either everyone in the world or the CBS Sports social media team to, for the latter, can we label, when we do my quarterback tier graphics, can we label 2023 on there? Because I'm getting all these tweets about how I put Kyler as a 6th tier guy when it's not even the correct label. It's who knows what the hell is going on with them. Like this week, they're like, oh, sweet tiers, bro. I'm it's from a year ago. Or everyone just stopped tweeting at me about Kyler Murray. Mike, you have a pick on the Kyler and the Cards team total here.
Yeah, I faded their team total. I went under 23.5. Look, the Jets, while this is a big total for a Jets game, it is in a dome, a controlled environment that helps a ton. I think that Jets are going to have success moving the ball. The question becomes, do they punch it in for touchdowns or not? One thing we know Aaron Rodgers has done so well throughout his career is milk a game clock. He absolutely uses up that time of possession. So I think that the real concern here is just Arizona's defense. While they have made some moves, they are definitely going for it because of that division. I think that they're going to surrender yards and ultimately that clock's going to be running. So I think they're going to struggle having real red zone efficiency. I also wonder about James Conner. I think that while running backs don't matter a ton to point spreads, some of this line movement I think is related to James Conner, who is in question for this game now, dealing with a finger injury, making it difficult to grip the football. I think could be a very interesting story in this game, just because they do rely on him a lot. So I like the Jets side a little bit. I love Aaron Rodgers in DFS, mostly a price point play. And just they're going to throw the football a ton. Arizona 27th in the NFL EPA per play defensively. So I'm going to go under the team total here, though. I think Arizona, while they could win the game, there's many paths to, again, 20, 21, or 23.
You could buy a lot of fluoride if you win the Million Maker with Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback. That's for sure. Larry, you have a lead on this game?
Yeah, I'm going opposite RJ with the Jets. Baron Browning, I mean, yeah, he's a slight upgrade to a terrible pass rush. He doesn't have a sack this year. He's only started a couple of games. The Jets, when Aaron Rodgers is not pressured, he has performed this year, and I think he'll have a nice clean pocket. He's got 2 great wideouts, as we know. And I just think that extra rest for this team, they'll be healthy. They'll be able to lock down the receivers. Trey McBride should have a good game. But if James Conner is iffy, this is just a Jets team that's underperformed all season. Finally got the monkey off their back. Still have hope of making a run. I think they get it done in Arizona.
All right, let's take a break. When we come back, 2 primetime games left to talk about, and they are doozies. Lions and Texans, Dolphins and Rams. Great matchups. We'll tell you what to pick next.
CBS Sports HQ, giving you college football coverage unlike anyone else.
We're talking Big Ten.
Pre- and post-game coverage.
Are you encouraged the way that this team responded?
Along with breaking news.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
Highlights and expert analysis.
That streak could be in jeopardy here.
Sure. What was your main takeaway from this game? How impressive was his domination?
That really changed the football game.
Let's go ahead and have some more fun.
Another wild ending.
The chaos continues.
Turn to CBS Sports HQ.
Okay, Lions. Yes, Larry.
Before we move on to the next game, the sports media world just corrected the fact that Devontae Smith did practice on Thursday. So that I just wanted to update that.
I was like 90% sure you were going to tell me I skipped like 2 games on the main slate. We had to go back and talk about them or something. Would not have that shocking. Lions and the Texans, though, Sunday night, great game. I think I saw, Nico Collins is like trended a little bit towards being back, but then Thursday was maybe not at practice. So that's a little bit of a potential monkey wrench in there. Obviously, he matters a ton for this game because of what he can do in that vertical passing attack and how it shifts Tank Dell into a number 2 role. And Diggs is out for the year. So that's a big one. Lions are minus 3.5 here with a total of 49. I am going to reverse donkey this and take the under at 49. I think the Lions can just come in and run the ball effectively. They've shown that. Now, Detroit's defense in these games where they piled up all these points, their defense has created short fields or they had these special teams touchdowns. I'm going to bank on something a little closer to what we saw against the Packers, where the Lions decided to just sort of keep it a little, not close to the vest, but they know that it's going to be a really tough matchup, and they simply go in and like, I just don't think they're going to like open it up and go crazy against this DeMeco Ryans defense. So I'm going to play the under in this game, even though a Sunday night primetime under is like not usually my cup of tea. Larry, you lean towards the home team here.
I was leaning towards the home team, but Will Anderson and Nico Collins both didn't practice on Thursday, so it's starting to get pretty iffy for Sunday night. Also, Fadu Kasi, their run stuffer, he's also not practicing. So yeah, I wanted to back the Texans. It's a great spot at home. CJ Stroud is so much better, but those are such important guys that I can't get there, and I think that's why we're seeing this back up to 3.5. It was down to 3 at one point. The Lions are just a covering machine. It doesn't seem to matter if they win the stats. Nothing seems to phase them. I think I heard 40-15 in their last 55 against the spread, which is simply incredible. So for me right now, until we see those guys' status, I got to stay away.
RJ, lean here for you either way?
Wanted to like the Texans, but again, can't play him with Nico Collins. Uncertain. It seems like he passed all tests according to reports, but he's not he's not assured to play in this game. I don't know how that makes sense. But yeah, we saw what that offense looked like without him last week. Don't want any part of that. Detroit outgained them by 150 plus yards each of their last 2 games. And like Larry said, it hasn't mattered. I think their value is likely inflated. Talk about that 40-15 ATS record. At some point that comes to an end because people start buying in. And all the talk has been about how the Lions are the number 2 team in the league, probably, maybe even the number 1 team, definitely the best team in the NFC, which I'm not sure I agree with San Francisco getting healthy. I think that they could be the better team there. And Goff's performance of late has been amazing. He just doesn't throw incompletions really. And that is an extreme outlier. You just can't count on that happening.
They have more touchdowns and incompletions in 6 games. That is insane.
And is that going to continue to happen? No. It just can't. It's just not going to happen. And at some point, it's going to lead to a loss in a tough spot against a good team. And this would be that type of situation. Houston's defense also number 1 in net yards per pass attempt. No team has had more than 209 net pass yards against them all year. So maybe the Lions offense runs its way to an easy win. If Collins is back, I think the Texans keep it close. Trying to hold out to see more about his status, but would probably take the Texans if he's in.
Anything for you, Mike?
I like the Lions side. I know it will be the most popular play of the entire week in the NFL, but until someone can prove it, you've got to have Collins. This Texans team, I've talked about it every week since he went down. He matters a lot. I made him worth 2 full points to the spread, which is insane, right? But I truly believe he is. He's nearly impossible to tackle in space. The offense changes drastically when he is out there. I like the Lions 3.5 now. I was waiting because I was expecting Collins to play, and I was expecting to get 3 and probably get 3 at even money, which is where I was going to be interested in buying on the Lions. But I do unfortunately think that Nico's not going to play here. I don't think he's going to play in this game. Now, the next thing I will say though, if he does day of get ruled in, just like we saw Puka Nacua, fire away, because he's that talented. It's a very similar situation. Would love to back his props and everything involved if he does play. So I'm waiting, and for me, this will be a Sunday afternoon call.
Yeah, and worth noting, like with the same thing with the Puka stuff. If they're going to put him out there coming off a big injury, and he's like that young a receiver and that talented, they're going to make sure he's able to go fully. That Puka, I got the over 27.5, like when it opened up. I mean, what a joke that was. All right, finally. Oh yeah, they saved the best for last, RJ. That's right. Dolphins at the Rams. Rams -1 on Monday night. Total of 50. I don't often give out back-to-back in-unit whale plays. It's not my nature. I like to keep it close to the vest. But I'm going to have to do it again. The Rams -1? Are you kidding me? This is an absolute smash spot. The Rams are back to 4-4. 2 weeks ago, we're talking about them trading everybody on a Thursday. They're just rolling. Matthew Stafford's playing incredible football. Cooper Kupp's healthy. Puka Nacua is healthy. He punched a helmet. That's the only reason he didn't have a big game. Kyron Williams should have scored 2 touchdowns in that game, but they ended up throwing them. I think Stafford carves up this Miami defense. I think Miami could keep it into a shootout and keep it close. And I realized that the Rams needed, like a insane throw from Matthew Stafford to Demarcus Robinson, like late in that game to actually win and get the whale play. We were watching it live on the early edge stream, but back to back, give me the Rams basically a pick 'em at home on Monday night with Hall of Famer Matthew Stafford under center. It's a 10-unit whale play. Run it back, RJ.
Can I change my pick?
We won last week.
Yeah, we won last week. It
got easy.
Got interesting. I'll be interested to see Larry defend the Dolphins here at this number. I think he's leaning that way. But I love the Rams at this number. I do not agree with the market movement. The Rams are cooking since the receivers returned. And the defense coming off a 7-sack game that also forced Geno into some dumb interceptions that weren't sacks. And I worry about what they could do to Tua with that pass rush starting to come into its own. It has a chance to be Tua's toughest test of the season, as strange as that sounds when you look at the matchups he's had. And you think about how bad the Rams defense is supposed to be. The Miami offense scored 27 in back-to-back games. It doesn't feel like it's clicked, so maybe Larry might say that there's some more upside here. I think the team could also check out at 2-6 off of 2 disappointing losses. It kind of feels like the season is at a loss at this point. At worst, for me, these two teams should be rated evenly, and the Rams deserve more than a point for home field advantage. But I think the Rams are the better team, and that 2.5 was the right number. So Rams -1's the best bet.
I do think, Larry, we could see. I mean, I think Tyreek Hill could have a big game in this spot just because of like the way the matchup sets up. But yeah, pass rush could get there. You're gonna fight a whale. You're gonna jump in the ocean and fight this monster whale steaming towards Los Angeles.
I'm actually not going to fight it, guys. I was torn on the game. Initial lean towards the Dolphins because of how fortunate and fluky some of these Rams wins have been. But one of the angles with our officiating column, which is going to come out on Friday on SportsLine, Ron Torbert is on the whistle, and that's always or has been very good news for the Rams. 9-2 straight up, 8-0 with him as a favorite. And also just some tendencies and what kind of flags he likes to call. So my officiating partner and I will be backing the Rams -1 in part because of that info.
All right, Mike, you want to make us a clean sweep? You want to drop a 40-unit Eagle play or what Albatross? I don't even know what it would be called, but any thoughts on this game?
I leaned to the Dolphins early in the week. I made the number 1, exactly 1, total 48.5. You could potentially talk me into a Rams team total under 25.5, under 26.5. You can find them. That would probably be my preferred way to play it. But I think the Dolphins have some success moving the ball here. So for me, more of a prop game, a lot more of a DFS showdown slate kind of game.
Yeah.
Devon Achane going to touch the football a ton in this one. He's going to be extremely involved. And Miami's still a run-first team. I think they're going to be able to choose some clock here. So for me, my look, again, it was Dolphins early, more so leaning towards a Rams team total under now.
Yeah, on Achane, worth noting, the books are catching up here, but when Tua's in there, I mean, he was unstartable when Tua wasn't playing. Same with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Waddle's been really slow. He'll be an interesting captain in DFS if he has a random blow up game. RJ, you got a week 11 look ahead for us.
Looking back to that Thursday game, I like Washington +3 at Philly. No reason for Philly's rating to go up no matter what they do this week. They're expected to blow out the Cooper Rush-led Dallas team. Maybe Washington's rating goes down if they get rolled by Pittsburgh, but even so, they've proved enough over the first half of the season to back them at +3 in this matchup. I don't expect to have another shot at +3 once the lines reopen on Sunday, so that's why I'm looking ahead to get it now.
All right. I love it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Don't forget, go to sportsline.com/join and use promo code winners to get 60% off an annual plan, or scan the QR code you see on your screen. And make sure to listen to the Early Edge podcast you watch it on YouTube too, every day at 10 a.m. or get it wherever you get your podcast. For RJ, for Mike, for Larry, I'm Brinson. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you guys later.